Good afternoon. Today I'll be analyzing and highlighting the system of the free throw and how the free throw revolutionized the game of basketball, which was created by the man on the right, Dr. James Naismith, in 1891. When looking at a free throw from a systems perspective, it can be broken down into a few components: classification, visibility, spatial arrangement. For classification, we're looking at the components of the free throw system. What is this system made out of? We have the basketball court, the rim, the net, the back. When we talk about the visibility of the system, we're focusing on how hidden or open the components of the system are, which I will highlight later on in the presentation. In regards to spatial arrangement, we're focusing on the environment and other systems that impact the free throw system. So in this case, we have referees and players. Referees dictate how many times a player or players will go to the free throw line, and that is also affected by how aggressive players are playing or if they're following the rules. When analyzing the systemogram, we have Dr. James Naismith up in the top left. Like I stated earlier, is the creator and inventor of the game of basketball in 1891. Now, Dr. James Naismith created this game, 10 players, 5 players on each team, and he had to come up with a way to ensure that up until 1895, for the first 4 years that basketball was being played, the idea of a free throw had not even been invented. Instead, if one team had committed 3 fouls and the other team had committed 0 fouls, the team who committed 0 fouls would be awarded 1 point. That would later be amended to all fouls being worth 1 point. But Dr. James Naismith realized and recognized that the game was being affected in a way that he did not intend to. So he came up with the idea of the free throw in 1895. With that being established, he had to create the free throw line, which would be 12 feet by 15 feet. Initially, he set the free throw line 20 feet away from the basket, which would later be reduced to 15 feet. Now, a player would shoot a free throw when there was a shooting foul, a flagrant foul, technical foul, clear path foul, or the team was over the foul limit, which would be 7 fouls. Finally, in 1895, players were awarded the opportunity to shoot free throws under certain conditions. Those 5 conditions, as I stated earlier, were shooting foul, technical foul, flagrant foul, clear path foul, or if the team was over the limit. When looking at the system's life cycle, the first step of this life cycle is establishing a system need. Now clearly, like I stated earlier, for the first 4 years, the concept of the free throw wasn't even come up with. We had the first 2 initial rules, where we had the 3 foul to 0 foul rule, which was later amended to all fouls being worth 1 point. Possible risks to this step in the life cycle is that Dr. James Naismith or players or coaches would not adhere to the stakeholders' requests or requirements, which could possibly lead to scheduled delays and possibly not enough revenue to operate and develop the system. The second step of the life cycle is developing a system concept. The penalty for fouling had many variations. It could be a blocking foul, charging foul, offensive foul. So Dr. James Naismith came up with a way to allow players to earn extra points for their team. He initially allowed fouled players to shoot free throws from 20 feet. But after analyzing and sorting through the statistics of players' shooting percentages from the free throw line, he would reduce that from 20 feet to 15 feet in order to improve a player's free throw percentage. The risk with this step in the life cycle is how the establishment of our free throw line will affect the game, which has to do with the performance of the free throw system. So, as Dr. James Naismith efficiently did, he reduced the free throw line from 20 feet to 15 feet. And he is also the only system stakeholder in this life cycle. Third step of the life cycle has to do with design and developing the system. So after settling on the free throw line being 15 feet away from the basketball hoop, Dr. James Naismith had to come up with a free throw lane, which would be 12 feet in width and 15 feet in length. If you look at the diagram, there's positions for 6 total people on the free throw line, 3 on each side, and you have 1 player shooting the free throw. Now the defensive players would be closest to the rim, followed by the offensive player, followed by a defensive player. So it'd be defense, offense, defense on each side, which comes out to be your 6 players total on the free throw line. Possible risks in this step of the life cycle is unexpected costs because of design flaws, schedule setbacks because of design flaws. System stakeholders, once again Dr. James Naismith, who's overseeing the design, and designers who will paint on the free throw lines on all the basketball courts. The next step of the life cycle has to do with producing the system. After free throw rules were finalized in 1895, Dr. James Naismith ordered the design of the free throw line to begin across America. The free throw lane, as I stated earlier, was a 12 by 15 foot rectangle, began to be designed on all the basketball courts. Possible risks with this step is anticipated costs if free throw line design is incorrectly painted, which could lead to unexpected production delays. The system stakeholders for this would be companies in charge of designing free throw lanes, because they would be the ones that are being paid for their services. Now once the free throw line was painted onto the basketball court, we would start to deploy the system of the free throw. Now once Dr. James Naismith cemented the free throw rules into the basketball rulebook, and designers had finally completed the design of the free throw lane into the basketball court, slowly players would start to begin playing basketball under these new rules. In the game, if a player was fouled in the act of shooting, a technical foul, flagrant foul, clear path foul was called, or the team was over the foul limit, a player would go to the free throw. And this was established in 1895. Possible risks in this stage of the life cycle were that players, coaches, and fans were unhappy with these new rules, which could possibly lead to less participation and viewing of the sport. System stakeholders for this stage of the life cycle include Dr. James Naismith, because he was the one overseeing the development of the free throw system, referees, players, coaches, who are all involved in the game of basketball, and the designers who painted on the free throw lane. Now currently, in the year 2015, the free throw system is currently in this stage of the life cycle, operating the system. Possible risks with this step are the referee's interpretation of the game. Now, referee's human, they're going to make mistakes, but this could also lead to unhappy players, coaches, and fans, which could lead to less participation and viewing of the sport of basketball. System stakeholders for this operation of the free throw system are players, coaches, and referees, because we need those 3 individuals to carry out a game of basketball. And the final step of the life cycle has to do with retiring or getting rid of the current system. However, as I stated earlier, currently the free throw system is in the operations step of the life cycle. So currently free throws are still being used today in basketball. However, modifications are always being made. For example, 20 years ago was when they first implemented the rule of 1-and-1, which stated that once a team was over the foul limit, a player would go up to the free throw line, shoot 1 free throw. If he made the first free throw, he would have an opportunity to shoot another free throw. If he missed, the ball was live and the other team could retain possession. However, free throws could be retired sometime in the future because, like I said earlier, modifications are always being made. Risks for this step of the life cycle are a negative response from basketball fans if we stopped implementing a free throw, which, like I stated many times, would lead to less people watching possibly and less people enjoying basketball. System stakeholders at this step of the life cycle are groups that have come up with a better alternative to the free throw, because they can capitalize on bringing in a new and more fun aspect to basketball instead of the free throw. One possible ethical consideration is, will an amendment to the initial foul rule affect the fluidity of the game, which has to do with establishing a system need. So as I stated earlier, for the first 4 years, the free throw was not even implemented. So what Dr. James Naismith had to consider was, if he changed the foul rule, how will that affect players, coaches, referees, fans, all those who take part in the sport of basketball. However, it paid off because implementing the use of a free throw is still being used over 100 years later. Now, basketball today, like I stated earlier, free throw is still being used. It's been used for over 120 years now. As far as I can tell, there is no plan in place to alter any aspects of the free throw in the near future, which in my mind is a system success. Now, basketball will continue to be played for decades to come. But what would a slight modification to the free throw system bring to society? Dr. James Naismith knew how to successfully implement changes and modifications to fouls, which led to the development and creation of the free throw system. But if someone came along and got rid of this system, it could have severe consequences to the game of basketball today. Thank you.